Hello, everybody. It's Friday again. Friday morning, to be precise. Comes around every week about the same time.
And you say that every Friday.
I know. And this is Paul Collins with my wife, Nancy, my co-host. We have two guests today. I'll tell you about in just a little bit. But in the meantime, I like to call this the Happy Hour broadcast with Dr. Paul and Nancy. I think that's a great title. Anyway, it is the Happy Hour. And it is the friendliest show on radio. It's the best look on Facebook. And for all of you stuck with watching the tube, turn over to YouTube, because we're there too, okay? Now, having said that, I need to point out, Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, they are in no way responsible for anything said on this broadcast, especially by moi. How about that? All right. and her too. Anyway, our special guest today, Kent Kyle and his son Adam. And we are extremely pleased to have them with us because they are experts in a field that's attracting a lot of attention in and out of the political world, on the debate stages and in the living rooms. But before we get to that, I want to give my word. I'm going to start a new thing today, folks. By the way, hello, Shirley, up in St. Joe, my first secretary. What a precious friend you are. And Jerry Jacobs over in Chesterfield, Missouri. Wow, we raised you up good. We really did. And then up in Northeast Missouri, Lynn Purdy and Janie Wood and all the folks there. And up in Northwest Missouri, again in St. Joe, the Flacks and the Reynolds, people over in Germany, people around the country, all over. We are in Springfield, Missouri, which is in the heart of the United States. We're sort of in the southwest quadrant of Missouri. And I like to call our little city of Springfield by my pet name for my adopted city. It's Springburg, USA.
That's right.
Springburg, USA. So now you know where we are. Anyway, for those of you who are fans of show business, we are a suburb of that big city of Branson, Missouri, population 10,000 if they count all the animals. Anyway, here we are, Springburg, USA, and here is my word that I wanted to get out there. In California, they have passed a law that says that elementary students do not have to obey the teachers.
Oh.
Now, how about that? Now, when I was in elementary school, back in the Stone Ages, the teacher was a benevolent dictator. And that was the way I think it ought to be today.
I know, that's right.
Also, California passed an ordinance or law that people do not have to assist the police. If a policeman's in trouble, you don't have to help him or her. Isn't that something? You talk about a state of anarchy. Anarchy means no law. Now then, to top it all off, in San Francisco, one of the alder women, a councilwoman, introduced and passed a bill stating that the NRA is a terrorist organization.
I saw that.
Now, hey folks, for those who don't keep up with these things, stands for National Rifle Association. Later on, I have evidence right here that they made a bad move. If I get a chance, I'll present the evidence. If not, be sure and listen next week. Meantime, we were preceded today by Dr. Marty Hamilton with Basics of Faith. What a great lesson he gave, and want you to watch him every Friday at 9 o'clock, and then we come on at 9:30. We'll be here until about 10:30. All right. Welcome, Kent and Adam. You men, we appreciate you very much. How long have you been our insurance agent?
You're probably one of my first clients. When Coventry moved down to Springfield, they sent me out on some appointments, and I think you may have responded to one of their mailings because I believe I had you with Coventry at one time and then switched over. So about 11 years.
Okay, now here's proof. It's good insurance. I'm still alive.
That's right, that's right. And this is starting my 44th year of insurance business here in Springfield. And my father started back in the, best I can figure, 1952 or 53.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
when I was 20 years old, I joined my dad and older brother, who's still in the business with me. Dad's passed away, but Adam represents the third generation of Kyles here in Springfield doing health insurance. About 11 years ago, we switched over to the Medicare market, and it's just a huge market, and it's been a blessing to us. We enjoy it. It's put the fun back in being an insurance agent anymore. I kind of got burnt out there in year 30, 35. I thought, I'm just tired of what I'm doing, but I need something else. And surely it was a blessing when I got a letter one day from Coventry asking me to help them out move their business down here to Springfield. And it's just been great. It really has. Still enjoy it.
Well, it's of course, among other things, a sales-based business, really profession anymore, because you've got to know a lot of stuff. But I was never inclined about sales. When I was 18 years old, I tried selling cemetery spaces in the harsh, cold month of January in northern Missouri. I managed to get in the car at night and drive around the house about 5 or 6 times before stopping to go up to knock.
I've done that.
It was before doorbells even, you know. Finally, I sold 6 cemetery spaces. They're probably occupied now. And then I resigned. I just couldn't handle it.
Well, we sold, life insurance is about the same thing.
Yes.
And it's kind of the same sale. It's not anything anybody really wants to talk about dying.
Well,
It's
what I tell our clients is, we don't really do a whole lot of sales. We do more advising than anything.
That's
because,
right. It has changed.
Medicare is something you're essentially legally required to have, with certain exceptions. But, we've done the group health and life insurance too. And just like what he said, that is actual selling. And that's the same exact thing you're talking about. So this has a lot less pressure for both us and for the client too, because we just kind of get to sit and have a conversation and figure out what's going to be in their best interest.
Adam, you are a young man. I'm so glad you're on board with your dad to keep this
Me too.
tradition going, because if the Lord tarries, we're going to need insurance for a long time.
That's
We
correct.
need to have some capable people who've made it their calling to do this, because when I was really young, somebody told me that when it came to insurance, there were 2 things to know for the layman. The big print giveth, and the fine print taketh away. And that was
Yep.
the first thing. The second thing they taught me was my insurance is only as good as my agent. So that's why I appreciate people who do the job, do it right, who are professionals, who are devoted to it, dedicated to it. Third generation folks, that's really neat. Now, at the bottom of your screen, there should be some contact information. So make sure that you're in touch with these folks, because even if you're not of Medicare age, they can give you some good advice.
Oh, yeah, and if they just have a question, we'll talk about some different things they might need to be preparing for coming up, because we're getting ready for the busiest time of the year, is the annual election period. But if they've got questions, or if they get a phone call, there's a lot of phone call scams coming in this time of year. Most of them you don't need to be answering and talking to. But if they got a question, we look at any new contact coming through our offices. We may not be their agent right now, but I bet you if we do them a good job, they'll know somebody that needs an agent and send us our name to them later on. So that's kind of the way we look at it. But if anybody just has a question or they're confused about something, look at that number, and I think he's going to post our cell numbers too, Adam.
Okay.
And that's
Good.
we live off our cell phones this time of year, because we can't always get back to people right then or answer the phone. So we'll call you at night if we have to.
I've never had a problem, folks, getting hold of Kent. I have his cell phone number, and I've called more times than I can remember on various matters and issues, even on some of the charges I received from the hospital very recently. Looked like a double charge, and he's had other calls about that, and
Yes.
he follows up on them, and he contacts the provider and the insurance people and so forth. Let's explain precisely what we're talking about with this Medicare connection with insurance, all right?
Okay. You want to take that? Are you meaning what is the Medicare insurance, or is there
Like
the
what we
enrollment?
do, or
Well, for instance, I have Essence. Nancy and I have Essence, which is in addition to we are on Medicare
Right.
at our age. So I think we need to explain to people out there, first of all, because our audience may be the age of Matt and Jason, and right now, probably Medicare is the last thing they want to think
Sure.
about. We need to let them know in
Right.
advance what's going on here. first.
Okay. Well, the starting place is Medicare. Everyone that has a plan like you have has to be enrolled in Medicare's Part A and B. A is generally no premium. B, for most people, is about $135 a month. That comes out of your Social Security check for most people. Not all people are on Medicare and Social Security, so they pay it directly. So that's your starting point. You got to have Medicare, and then from there you've got a couple options. You could go a Medicare supplement route. There's 54 years old this year, and for 54 years there's always been a Medicare supplement policy out there you could buy that paid all the co-pays and co-insurance that Medicare approved but didn't pay. So that's been around forever and ever as far as Medicare goes. But then in 2006, they came out with Part C of the Medicare program, and that's called Medicare Advantage. And that's just hugely popular right now. There's 22 million Medicare beneficiaries on the Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage has all your Part A, all your Part B, and most of them have Part D, which is prescription drug coverage. And in a lot of situations, you don't pay an additional premium for that. You still got to pay your Part B premium, but these are zero premiums, and the way they can do that is this is a contract between Medicare and your insurance company, and there's 18 different plans here in this green Christian stone painting campground here.
more for 2020.
That's right. Nick got a new one coming in, and they pay him. They tell us about $800 a month with your name on it to take care of your. So when you go to the hospital or the doctor, you don't show your Medicare card. You show the Essence card.
That's right.
And they take care of. And you have co-pays, and if you go to the hospital, you pay a certain amount.
It's typically cheaper, though, than just sticking with original Medicare. Your cost sharing is typically lower with the Part C
Right.
plans.
Right. Now, obviously, since you're the son, you're several years younger than your dad. Do you find it, being a young person, a little more challenging to talk to folks about Medicare, which is really insurance primarily for
Seniors.
retired people? I mean, we do have an age differential here.
Absolutely.
How's that work for you, Adam?
I think at first there was definitely quite a bit of a learning curve. I was fortunate in college, being a communications major. In one of my advanced interpersonal communication classes, we actually spent a week on how millennials, I'm in the millennial generation, don't hold that against me, but I'm in the millennial generation, and we had to spend an entire week on how millennials can communicate with baby boomers in the workplace, because just the way we view the world, the way we see money, the way we value home ownership, and all of that stuff is just, it's worlds apart. And so, you need to be conscious of that, especially going into this business. But I haven't really found it near as much of a challenge as I thought it would be. I've never really been kind of the typical millennial my age. I mean, I started my career when I was in college. I got married when I was young. I bought my first home when I was young. And so I never really wanted to do the whole millennial young person experience. And I also, last year, I did a course to become a certified senior advisor, which
Wonderful.
was, I think, was just absolutely invaluable. And the certified senior advisor CSA program, it's an interdisciplinary approach to working with older adults. And it was wonderful for me, I think, just to have the knowledge, because during that course, which took me about a year to complete, they go over absolutely every aspect of aging, which is,
Oh,
it was
that's
just
awesome.
invaluable. I mean, everything from long-term care to financial planning for seniors, planning for funerals, estate planning, dealing with things like dementia and Alzheimer's, the primary health care needs of older adults. They had, of course, sections on Medicare and Medicaid, which is kind of, of course, our specialty. But so you've got CSAs that are geriatric care managers, elder lawyers, things like that. So it's a very interdisciplinary approach, but I think that was, just helped me become worlds ahead where I would have been being 24 years old, working with older adults, because it's kind of allowed me to see the world, through the lens of being a baby boomer, which, of course, is wonderful.
See, here's the thing, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
At my age, I look for stability, continuity. In the medical field, they are required to observe what they call continuity of care. That's true for a medical doctor. It's true for any specialist. It's true for psychologists and psychiatrists. It's continuity of care. I apply the same yardstick to my insurance. Continuity of care. That's what your company, family company, has demonstrated. Third generation. Now, even though I'm 84, there are some people that think, well, Dr. Paul, he's about, ready to hang it up. No, I'm not. I'm in my head. I'm 45. So I'm counting, and I wanted to check my arithmetic a while ago. That's why I was writing here. I'm not very good at math, but I'm super good at arithmetic. That's my generation. By the way, you're a millennial.
Mm-hmm.
I belong to the codgerhood generation.
Yeah.
Old codger.
Yeah. So since the Bible says that I'm supposed to live to be 120, I only have 36 more to go. So I hope you will have a son coming on.
And it helps me out too. When I'm 63 and a new client comes in the office and they, in the back of their mind, it helps me to point out Adam, say, hey, 10 years from now when I'm, fishing every day of the week, Adam will be here to take care of your needs because, pretty soon I'll be older than my new clients at age 65 when I head over there. And I don't really plan on retiring.
No.
Be like you, Paul. I may just go in 2 or 3 days of the week. But I always want to be there. We have a nice office in Springfield, and I like going there.
Well, here's the thing. This continuity of care, I wish our young people would take it seriously and begin planning now for the possibility that they're going to get older. When I was teaching college classes, so often I had students who were right out of high school, they're barely 18 years old. I had some that were older, of course, but when they would tell me that they were 19 years old, for instance, I'd be able to say, yesterday I was 19. Guess how old you're going to be tomorrow. Time flies. We have, I think, a couple of generations who feel like they're bulletproof, like they're going to be forever young, forever the same age.
They need to be in the military then.
Nancy knows about that stuff. But I want them now to be thinking about Medicare. Now, let's make certain that people understand there is a vast difference between Medicare and Medicaid, because they're going to hear both terms. Jump in, either one of you.
Medicare is the federal government program. It's been around again for 54 years. Medicaid is a state-driven program, so it's different from every state, and it's probably one of the hardest things for us as agents to figure it out because everybody's different. There's different statuses of our clients. They've got Medicaid, and they say they're QMB, that's Qualified Medicare Beneficiary, and there's people on spin-downs. It's just, it's very helpful. It causes a lot of confusion, but it sure helps out a lot of people.
Medicare is for seniors and people who have been legally disabled for 24 months, longer than 24 months.
Okay.
And Medicaid is for lower income adults and children, older adults and children. Missouri is a little different than the rest of the country because we don't have an expanded Medicaid program. So for those who are, say, they're a single man, and they're in their 40s and they're very low income, it's extremely difficult for them to qualify for Medicaid because for that bracket between being under 18 or over 18 and under 65, and especially being a man, if you're a woman, it's a little bit easier to get on Medicaid, but it's basically just for destitute older adults and children. But Medicaid is it's state and federal, so it's funded by the federal government, but the state kind of makes a lot of the rules, and they put in their own funding. So it, like my dad said, it is really tough for us to understand because there are federal guidelines as far as what allowed to do, but the state can kind of veto those and play around with them to where it's a little bit different in every state. For example, Missouri, it's called Missouri Health Net. That's our Medicaid system, but it's, every state has a different name for it, and the requirements to or the eligibility requirements are different from one state to another. I've had clients that have moved here from Kansas and they were eligible for Medicaid in Kansas. They're not eligible for Medicaid here in Missouri. So it's odd, and since it's an entirely public program, meaning they don't market through any privatized agents like the Medicare health plans do, we don't get any training, we don't get any information. The only thing we can use to learn about the Medicaid program is their website, mohealth.gov, which is tough to navigate sometimes, but you can find enlightening things on there, and then just word of mouth, what we hear from our clients, their experiences.
See, Mo HealthNet came in under the leadership at Blunt. That was his big thing when he was elected to office. He served 4 years as governor and elected not to run again. But Mo HealthNet was his idea because right at that time, people were in a stew and a stir about Medicaid. And so he jumped on that bandwagon and used that as one of the ways to win the governor's office.
Well, and theoretically, when the Affordable Care Act came out, part of the ACA was an expansion of Medicaid for those adults that were not seniors and they weren't children. They were kind of the middle-aged adults who had very low income. But Missouri did not include that in the way the Affordable Care Act expanded into Missouri. So we are one of the few states that does not have an expanded Medicaid program. So
Couple of things here. I want to make certain now, a lot of our audience will be younger people right now, and there may be some who are on disability or getting ready of necessity to go on disability. Want them to clearly understand that Medicare is not just relegated to senior citizens who have retired because of longevity.
Correct.
There is a Medicare program that involves those who are on disability or may be on disability at a young age. And then for them to understand that that's a separate program, that's federal. It operates, I guess, under the Social Security Administration.
It does, and to be Medicare disability, you have to have a 24, 25-month window there of disability before you get your Medicare card, and then you're enrolled in the Medicare automatically.
And they automatically enroll you, yeah.
Okay, now, if they do, are they entitled then to Medicare Advantage plans like you offer?
They do. They got to pay attention to certain enrollment windows, and that's what Adam and I spent from 8 o'clock yesterday in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon going to seminars with all the different insurance companies, and your carrier was there looking at the 2020 benefits. But the enrollment windows cause a lot of confusion. Matter of fact, I have a cheat sheet and a file. So there's enrollment windows if you move. There's enrollment windows if you lose your job. There's enrollment windows if you go on Medicaid for the first time. If you go in a nursing home, there's an enrollment window. But for most people that's on a Medicare Advantage plan, right now it's probably one of the most important parts of the season, because here in about 3 weeks, towards the end of September, you're going to get your annual notification of change booklet, and it's going to show you what your 2019 benefits have been and what your 2020 benefits will be. And if you like it, you can just set that aside and you'll be automatically re-enrolled in what you have. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to call anybody or tell anybody anything. You'll always have your plan you're on now, unless they're leaving the market, which I don't think we have any in this area that's leaving the market, so I think everybody's safe. Now, if you don't like it, or if you want to switch doctors and you want to go from a Cox doctor to a Mercy and you need another plan, this is the time of year you can shop. And there's, again, 18 currently, and there's going to be a couple more plans, so let's say there's 20 different plans you could enroll in. And how do you do that? What do you do? How do you compare if you don't have an agent? Well, your mailbox is going to be full of stuff.
Right.
And
It will be confusing.
And it's zero premium, and we're the best, and enroll with us and call this. You got to be careful who you call on those things, because they can't. The marketing rules are they can't contact you unless you make an effort, unless you do something first. You sign something, send it back, or you make a phone call. That opens the the window to all the phone calls. So kind of be careful on which one you want to come start calling you. You can go to seminars. There's a lot of seminars in the area. Adam's done some years ago, and that's where they'll explain, you know, a new Humana or a new Aetna or something like that. And those are very beneficial. Medicare.gov, you can go on there, and they're supposed to be revamping that this year. It started yesterday, and we're waiting to see what the reviews are on that. But people can go on Medicare.gov and change plans. You know, they don't particularly have to have an agent.
Okay. Now, I want you to hear two things clearly. Number one, our station manager and chief engineer, Matt Pearson, will in a little bit be ready to give us a 30-second commercial about some products that contribute toward health. But while he's getting ready to do that, I want to stress that this isn't a broadcast just for senior citizens. I mean, there are people who are young adults who are on disability, and Medicare and Medicare Complete things apply, do they not?
They do, and here's another classification. I have lots of children calling me about their parents' Medicare.
Oh, yes.
I've had 2 this week. So, you know, mom and dad can't really take care of their business affairs anymore, and I had to go through that with my parents.
Okay, now the other thing here, before Matt does his commercial, folks, Kent mentioned things that come in the mail. Don't do like most people, just something shows up, lay it over here, just keep stacking them up, and stacking them up, and then eventually pushing them over in what we used to call file 13, the trash can. And then all of a sudden you get a shock.
That you threw something away.
Yeah, you should have looked at it. Check your mail. Check your mail. Even if you think it's not relevant to you, it may very well be. If not, it may be relative to one of your parents, or it may be relative to a friend, but it may be something that you need to know about, that have it in your file so that in the future you can pull it out and say, oh, I can talk to Kent and Adam about this.
Well, and if you see something, you can always give it that piques your interest in the mail. You can always give us a call and say, hey, I got something about this. You know, what is kind of thing. The thing I tell my clients is, you're going to get a lot in the mail, and if you have a plan that you're happy with, or if you have any kind of program that you're very happy with, don't sign anything before talking to your agent or your child or whoever helps you with that stuff.
That's
because it is confusing, and sometimes, you know, it's the way these carriers call beneficiaries sometimes is a little confusing, and they end up getting enrolled in plans that they didn't really intend to. I had an issue with that with a client just in the last few weeks. He's gets a year-long enrollment period because of his situation, and he had a great program, and he accidentally, inadvertently on the internet expressed consent, quote unquote, to receive a call from another carrier, and they called and he didn't really know what they were wanting, so he accidentally got enrolled in another plan. Which is that's atypical, but still, you know, it's something you want to watch out for.
It's
and make
not
sure you
a
have something
friendly
to trust.
world.
No, and another thing, Paul and Nancy, Medicare will not call you. If they need to contact you, they'll mail you something. Every year, I get there's agents out there, and 99% of them are honest and great, but there's always that 1% that will have a phone company or hire somebody to call to try to get appointments and say, this is Medicare, we want to come by and review your policy. And they will not do that. So just hang up. Just hang up.
That's right. That's right. Now, Matt, give us a great word
Yes,
that
sir.
will contribute in a natural way toward good health. Matt Pearson.
I can do that, everybody. I can do that. Are you over there? Hey, good morning, everybody. Matt here. Sorry, I always have to look over there and make sure the other one's working right, too. So I'm sitting here in the back 40 at the studio here at Axe Ministry headquarters here in the beautiful Springburg, USA, as
There you
Dr.
go.
Paul would say. Now, today I'm going to talk about, of course, this show is brought to you by naturalsolutionstore.bz. And not only is it a great place to go look for your natural solutions, it's also fun to say .bz after everything you say. We do that here a lot. Now, this is hitting pretty close to home for me this last couple of weeks. You might be able to hear the sound of my voice. My sinuses have been burning. My nose has been running. It's in my throat a little bit. Now, it's not spring, but we're coming up on fall here before long. So that means that we're going to have, what do you call those, allergies and sinus problems You wouldn't think that it'd be as bad in the fall, but apparently it is, because I usually don't get allergies, but I did this year. So that being said, there's good news. You go on to a little product called All Natural Cold and Sinus. All right, so what this stuff does, it provides relief from allergy symptoms and supports natural oxidants. Overall, it improves the sinus and respiratory health. We all could use that. Everybody wants to breathe better. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read here what all it does. It helps to support immune functions, ears, nasals, and sinus passages. It soothes tissues and membranes, and it balances the moisture and mucus. It's a gross word, but, you know, hey, we all have it. And it supports, I already said it supports the immune function. So if you're having some sinus issues, or if you're really bad about that every year, go online to www.naturalsolutionstore.bz and pick yourself up a bottle today. Back to you guys.
All right. We fondly refer to Matt as Matthew Dylan Pearson, and Jason Cobb is his faithful sidekick, Festus.
I like those names.
I do too.
I was a big
Those,
Gunsmoke
you know,
fan.
they're so young that they barely understand what I'm talking about sometimes. And
Can I touch on something real quick, Dr. Paul?
Could you be Doc and Kitty, maybe?
What you guys were talking about earlier about beware of people calling and trying to scam you. Okay, another thing you want to realize, the IRS will not call you like that.
Right.
They will send you a certified letter. So if someone calls saying that you've got warrants out for your arrest for this, that, and the other, do not believe them. And it's really sad that people would actually do that to people. But you're right, Dr. Paul. This is not a nice place to live
no,
sometimes.
it's not a friendly world. In fact, I'm amazed.
Follow your gut instinct. That's what I tell people.
I'm amazed in the United States of America becoming a world of Me Tooism. We know what that is, anybody that pays attention to the news. Most of the crooks on the robocalls are women. Have you,
Really?
anybody noticed that? Yeah, very pleasant sounding women. And so here we have this Me Tooism movement going on by the female gender. By the way, I love women. Nancy loves men. It makes a great arrangement for us. But I still want to, you know, I think we need to have a level playing board, and let's call it like it is. Most of the voices that you hear on these robocalls are women's voices, and for a woman to take that kind of a job, she got to be a crook. Got to be.
Correct.
Well, we're more likely to trust a soft, feminine voice.
Have you fellows ever watched NCIS Los Angeles?
I'm actually binging that right now on Hulu.
Okay. One of my favorite episodes was when Hetty, at the end of the program, is talking to Callan, and Callan actually talking to her, and he says, "Hetty, you moved the pieces on the chessboard, didn't you?" She, little short woman, she looks up and she said, "No, Mr. Callan, I moved the chessboard." Think about it. Now, we have people who will call you that are not just moving pieces around on the chessboard, they're moving the chessboard. They make it sound really good. And in the world of insurance, I had a call yesterday on our landline, which seldom gets any use, and this guy's talking pretty fast, wanted to speak with Nancy. I said, she's sitting next to me. I said, "This is her husband. May I help you?" "Oh, yes. What's your name?" I said, "Paul." And he starts saying about, we're with your health and life insurance information. We have some information for Nancy. We want to call her. When would she be available? I said, "No, you can talk to me." This went on for a while, and I'm saying, "You're trying to sell me something." No, we don't want to say anything, but we want one of our representatives to
Sure.
call. I said, "No, if you don't know what the representative is going to talk about, then we have nothing to talk about." He hung up. So it was a scam.
That's what you got to be watching for.
Right. And this
that's
is the time of year, folks, by the way, sign-up time for Medicare Advantage plans. It's now. The window's opening right now.
No, it's close.
It's close,
We're
yes.
going to our meetings now in the month of September. Here's how it works. October 1st through December 7th, we can talk to our clients about the 2020 or the next year plans, and you can start shopping. You can compare. Starting October 15th, you can actually enroll in a plan for a January 1 effective date. If you change your mind, you can do it again. You can keep doing it.
Yeah.
Whatever they have on December 7th, they is in Medicare. That's who you'll be with on January 1.
Does anybody here happen to know the date of the official beginning of autumn? I do.
Is it September 21st, 22nd?
22nd.
Yeah.
It's getting close.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
ready.
excited.
Now, there was a question floating through my mind. I'm going to try to reach out and snag it here.
I've got a comment about
Okay.
this scammers in the area.
Yes.
I dealt with that some personally last enrollment season. I had an agent who was being a little bit unethical. They target lower income older adults. Really, that's kind of, but
I
really
see.
seniors in general are the number one target for scammers and those practicing with unethical business practices. And one thing that I'm actually in the process of doing right now is I'm setting up a way to counter that. There's a lot of referral clubs in Springfield for professionals to be able to say, okay, I've got a lot of other people who don't work in my area of expertise, but I trust them. That way, if one of my clients has a need in their field, I can send them there. The problem is, as far as I can tell, nothing like that exists for seniors. It's usually business to business type, services and offers and things like that. So I'm in the process of starting the Senior Market Professionals Network, and it's a referral club for professionals who just work predominantly with seniors or only with seniors.
All right.
So we've had our first meeting and we've got quite a bit of interest, but I'm very excited about that because I don't like sending my clients to people I've never worked with personally.
All right. Now, you will keep, you have my email address to
Absolutely.
keep us informed, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
Good, good. Nancy, what's up?
Nothing.
Okay. The thing that was floating around through my head has to do with the Affordable Care Act. Medicare is only in the news because we have some presidential candidates espousing Medicare for all. In other words, it wouldn't be just for senior citizens.
Right.
It'd be for a baby right out of the womb. But the Affordable Care Act, a portion of that went by the wayside. Is anything new going to be happening with the Affordable Care Act right here in the near future?
I kind of turned that over to Adam 4 years ago, so he's the expert on that. I'll let him answer.
As much as it's possible to be an expert on that topic right now.
By the way,
just,
most folks know it as Obamacare.
Right. Yeah, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, the PPACA, Obamacare, it's kind of synonymous. Or the Federal Exchange is what I usually say, because I don't want to politicize it too much.
Right.
And both the ACA and Obamacare are kind of politicized words. But the federal marketplace, which is, if you've never had to deal with Obamacare before, Obamacare is not like a health insurance plan that Obama put into place. It's healthcare.gov, a federal marketplace where people can go online and they can shop for health insurance. It's still through private health insurance companies, so it's still administered privately, but depending on your income, you can possibly qualify for a government subsidy on your premiums, which means that the government will pay a portion of your premiums every month. So if you're a lower income household, and it's based off household income, so not individual income, it's whatever you're going to pay taxes on, you could potentially get a health insurance plan for very low premium or no premium at all, which that's I've got some clients that do that. But the opposite end of the spectrum is if you make a little higher than probably the average household income size for your household size, it's pretty insurance because the prices have risen a lot in the last 8 years. As far as what they're planning on doing, who knows? That's really the short answer. There's been a lot of talk. There's been a few kind of minor things passed. The problem is with an industry as large as the under 65 health insurance market. When Trump was campaigning, he was saying, we're just going to abolish Obamacare, which, don't get me wrong, you're not going to find any supporters of the federal marketplace on this end. But since it's such a big industry, it's very difficult to just switch it out overnight when it's in the mess that it is. So whatever steps our government's going to take, they've got to be careful steps because of how volatile the market is right now. So all that to say, I couldn't tell you what's going to happen 6 months from now. There's just not a lot going on.
Okay.
one area where it's a red flag, and Adam, we ought to talk about this with our Medicare clients that are coming in, aging in, we call it, somebody turning 65, and they've been on an Obamacare type plan and they've had a full subsidy or they got a very low premium. First of all, you can't keep it. I mean, you can keep it. They won't cancel it on you just turning 65, but you got to beware. It's not credible coverage, so you still have to enroll in A and B, and you lose your subsidy the month you turn 65. So if you're going along for 2 or 3 years and you got a $25 a month premium, that's really a $1,000 a month premium. And if you don't cancel it, and the same day that you could get your Medicare, you know, the same dates, you could end up with a $1,000 premium. So, got to watch that. You know, it's you lose the subsidy when you hit 65.
All right. Those of you who are below 65, but you have parents or friends who are getting ready to hit that mark or whatever, be sure and remember Kent and Adam Kyle, and the information along the bottom of your screen. Call and get some advice. You will also give advice on just people who have general insurance questions where you can refer them or whatever.
And I also do some Christian health sharing ministries too for the under 65 market.
What you call it?
Christian health sharing ministries. It's kind of an alternative to regular health insurance.
Nancy, Christian Health Sharing Ministries. How about that?
It's health insurance.
Well, it's
not really insurance.
We got to be careful about using that term. Legally speaking, it's not health insurance, and the reason that distinction is very important is because if it was health insurance, then it would fall under the Affordable Care Act regulations.
So
and
the
it would
name is, what's the exact name?
I can't say over the air because of marketing guidelines with the
but
company.
It's a Christian sharing type
Yeah,
thing.
It's a Christian health sharing ministry, and essentially the way it works, actually, this one that I represent, there's a lot of them out there, and some of them I like, some of them I don't. Most of them I don't, for most people, let's just put it that way. But the one I represent actually works very similarly to a regular health insurance plan. If you talk to somebody who's been on a Christian health sharing ministry before, like our church, we've got a lot of homeschool families, and a lot of homeschool families do the health sharing ministries. And one of the more popular ones, the way they work is you have to go get your cover or go get your services from the provider, and then you get your bill and you submit it to the health sharing ministry, and they determine if it follows the guidelines to be eligible for reimbursement, which that's just hassle I don't want to mess with, and most of those don't even market through agents like myself anyway. So I've been offered to from a few, but I've kind of turned it down. The one I do does not work like that. It works like a PPO health insurance plan. You get a card in the mail, a membership card. You go to the provider, you show it to them, and if they look at it, even if they have no idea what the heck it is, there's instructions on the back of the card for how they can submit the claims, or the needs. That's what they call claims. Again, the terminology is very important because they want to try to distinguish themselves from anything that would qualify as health insurance for the ACA. But you go and you've got your first membership responsibility amount, which is like a deductible, and you get your services done, and they submit the bill to the health sharing ministry, and then if you have any out-of-pockets, you receive that from the health sharing ministry, and you pay that just like you would with regular health insurance. So it works pretty well, and compared to an unsubsidized marketplace plan, meaning the government's not helping you pay for any of your premiums, the best plan compared to probably the bottom tier plan on the marketplace for the last couple of years, it's typically about it's a fraction of the price.
I have had information relative to that type of operation come across my desk for probably 20 years. So it's not the new kid on the block.
Right.
It's been around, folks, tested by time and usage. So what Adam's talking about, if it's new to you, doesn't mean it's a new radical idea. It's been around a long time, and many people have benefited. In the church world, we would say a lot of folks got blessed. A lot of folks got blessed.
Well, and it doesn't matter anymore. That's one thing that has changed about the Affordable Care Act is the shared responsibility tax, which basically means if you don't have credible coverage throughout the year, you got to pay a big tax at the end of the during tax time. That's kind of gone away. But when that was still around, this Christian health sharing ministry I'm talking about, that one did count as credible coverage, meaning you did not have to get that tax because it met the minimum essential requirements that the Affordable Care Act put for care. So that was a really good sign for a lot of people to say, okay, well, the government recognizes this as coverage that's good enough to where I won't be counted as not having insurance. And you're right about them being around for quite a while. This one is probably, they're not really one of the newer players in the game, but they're not as old as some of the bigger names. This one's been around since 1995. They're based out of Dallas. And about 2015 is really when they really exploded as far as growth. And in fact, they got so much growth that it was very difficult for them to manage. But that was the same year right before the federal marketplace enrollment period. Several carriers announced in most markets that they were going to be leaving or raising their rates by just an absorbent amount. And so they ended up getting a lot more enrollments, and the good news is that gave them a lot more money to be able to revamp their system and to be able to make the plans more attractive and make enrollment and customer service better. But the downside is they were a little bit, it's kind of a mom and pop shop type setup at first. And so, then they started processing 20 times the number of enrollments they had at their busiest time. And so that kind of overwhelmed their system a little bit, but they've been able to hire some outside marketing firms. They've kind of redone their corporate structure, and they're just leaps and bounds from where they were even when I first licensed with them 4 years ago. And so I've got quite a few clients with them, and generally they're pretty happy.
I want you to look directly into that camera instead of at me. Look in that camera.
Mm-hmm.
Tell folks your name and your cell phone number.
Sure.
And your website or Facebook thing, or however they can get hold of you. Look
Okay.
in that camera
Sure.
and tell them.
With the top one or the bottom one?
Both of
Okay,
them, yeah.
alrighty. Okay, very cool. Yes, my name's Adam Kyle. My cell phone number is 417-988-4712. I'll give you my email address. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me, and it's adam@kyleinsuranceservices.com. And then you can visit my YouTube channel, Medicare Made Easy, as well.
All right. Now, you saw him and you heard him. I admitted my age, 84. Are you willing to admit your age?
Sure, yeah,
Okay, admit it.
82. I'm kidding.
It is the happy hour, folks.
Yes, there we go.
There's a 60-year difference. How about that?
Yeah, I'm 24.
All right. The reason for this, folks, is add, of course, a little levity into the show and some humor and so forth, and keep it human and all that. But also, insurance isn't just for old folks. It just isn't. I want all of the young viewers and listeners to begin to take this issue seriously,
Right.
because you must. It is an essential ingredient in life, the way our American culture is set up, the way our American business scene is set up, the way our American medical scene is set up, the pharmaceutical industry, all of these things. Right in here is a linchpin, and it's called insurance. So become a student. Don't throw away stuff that comes in the mail. Get around to reading it, filing it, and remember, a 24-year-old looks into the camera and tells you his name, his cell phone number, his email address, his YouTube account. He's a serious professional in this. And some of you have probably 20 years on him. You're 20 years older. You've done nothing about insurance. Don't be caught unawares.
And along that line, what I would say is we have a lot of clients coming in, on top of just regular health insurance and Medicare that we do a lot of kind of the supplemental ancillary products too that kind of fill in those major gaps of most health insurance programs, even Medicare programs. So things like critical illness insurance that pay lump sums and treatment benefits for things like a heart attack and stroke and cancer and the major things that unfortunately most of us will face at some point in our life. Long-term care insurance, home health care insurance, stuff like that. That stuff is really, really important. And basically once you hit 40, about 40 to 55, that's kind of the perfect time period to start buying long-term care insurance and home health care insurance. Most of the requests that we get for that sort of thing is when it's on somebody's mind and they're an existing client. Well, why would it be on somebody's mind? Because they know they're probably going to need it relatively soon, which by that point it's almost always too late. And we're all going to think about it someday. And so to that end, that is that kind of peak time to buy that long-term care, that home health care stuff, and it's about age 40 to 55, sometimes up to 60. And so that's what I would encourage, your younger listeners to be mindful of, because you will think about it. It's just usually most people think about it when it's too late.
Well, if somebody is your age and they're over here in Marshfield, which, by the way, for our national audience, that's a town of 8,000 people approximately, 40 miles east of Springburg, USA, and you have a medical emergency and you have to be airlifted into Springburg for medical attention, what do you surmise that airlift is going to cost a 24-year-old?
Well, of course, that would depend on what kind of insurance they have, what their out-of-pockets are going to be.
Or if they don't have any insurance.
If they're paying cash, I mean,
We hear horror stories, $15,000, $20,000.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it is.
We're talking big ticket items
Yep.
here, right? Helicopters don't come cheap. And if you live in a suburban area or a little town out away from medical facilities, and it's a life and death matter, ground transportation is too slow. And you need that airlift. We're talking big ticket items here. And so insurance is to be taken very seriously. Kent, I remember when you came across a program that would provide, I'm not going to go in details here, about airlifting people, and you provided that information to me, nice big color
Right, I remember that.
folder.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so there are some people who take all this very seriously, that's for sure. Well, Matt, I see it's saying 10:27. Since we're on a different schedule, how much time do I have?
Well, you're going over, so you'll
Okay.
have till 10:30. Usually
Okay.
you'd have to be at 10:25.
All right. By the way, I
You got
use
3 minutes.
Hmm?
You got 3 minutes.
3 minutes. I use the word schedule. One of my favorite stories. I've told it before, but we've been on the air for over a year, so a lot of folks haven't heard it. During World War II, Winston Churchill was known as Winnie. Dwight David Eisenhower, the general, was known as Ike. They got together, and Winnie said, "Ike, why is it I say schedule and you say schedule?" And Ike said, "Winnie, it's because we went to different schules." Okay.
That is good.
I hope
That's
you didn't
funny.
lose your chain of thought,
No.
Kent.
One last thing. The only note I made I want to talk about on this program is a lot of our clients have problems with paying prescription drugs. It's something they use every month. It's just a constant. Gets more and more
Right.
expensive. The government has a program called Extra Help, and if you'll go to your computer and just Google Extra Help, it'll pop you into the Social Security website, and it's to help people with lower incomes to help pay for your prescription Medicare Part D. This is for Medicare people. It will drastically lower the cost of your medication. So if you're struggling, I got the income limits for a single person.
Well, we actually found out yesterday with one of our carriers, they have a nice little new tool where we can type in some basic information and look up basically any type of government assistance program, including the extra help that any of our beneficiaries may be eligible for.
It's roughly, if you're single and income less than $1,600 a month, or a couple less than $2,100 a month, you'd qualify for that Extra Help program. So I encourage you to go because it'll save you a lot of money.
All right.
And it's free.
Be sure and check out Kent and Adam, Kyle, etc. Before I get to my famous slow close, I want to say, folks, this program is because of the covering of Acts Ministry Incorporated, a very viable 26-year-old nonprofit that serves where needed and always by doing the right thing. This department is called Acts Media Group. Every part of Acts Ministry is underfunded. The budget is so small that it's embarrassing. But the work is so big, we could be braggadocio. I mean, it's a huge work, but it's operating on such a small budget, and we're always way short of what it takes to operate. I invite all of you to go online make a phone call, inquire. They will be glad. It's not up to me to share inside information, but it's not hidden. The president of Acts Ministry, Dr. Jim Wining, will gladly, by the way, he was an insurance executive many years ago. He will gladly share with you what it costs to operate and what's coming in every month. And every month, they're falling farther and farther and farther behind. We need to keep this movement going. We need to be able to expose professionals and business people to the entire world. So please, don't take this lightly. Go to the website, make a phone call, inquire, and join the team. Teamwork makes the dream work. Now, slow close. I'm famous for this. Yes, this has been Friday morning and the happy hour. And I'm old Dr. Paul, and this is my beautiful co-host, Nancy. And this show is really the friendliest show on radio, and Matt's just trying to hurry me up. But it's a slow close, Matt. And it is the best look on Facebook. So turn off the TV tube and turn on YouTube. And you'll be with us again next Friday starting at 9:30. And we'll be glad you're looking in. See you.